crypto asset securities and a market for crypto asset securities. That's like saying there's an Orange Grove security, or Orange is part of securities. And when it comes to investment contracts, you look at the transaction. So this is what's so important about the decision, and this is why the decision is landmark in this country, is the court found that the token itself cannot embody the attributes of an investment contract that's contemplated by Halley. So the token itself is not the security. Certain transactions involving that token may be investment contracts, but the token divorced from that transaction is nothing but a token, just like the orange is divorced from the Orange Grove Collective, and that promise between the seller and the buyer are just oranges. That's what makes this decision so important. We would have liked her to go so far as to find that you needed a contract for an investment for there to be an investment contract. But she said she felt she didn't have the power to go that far as a district court judge. But coincidentally, she only found an investment contract in those instances where there was a contract. So even though she said, I'm not going to go that far, if you actually read the opinion, she kind of did cabin the opinion that way. And if the case does make its way up on appeal, which it probably will, if it gets to the Supreme Court, which maybe it will, and I kind of would hope it will, I think we'll win on that contract. We'll win on that statutory construction argument. But the finding that the token itself is not a security, and the token itself cannot embody the attributes of an investment contract, that's what makes this decision so very important.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves. We making major moves. We going all in like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mr. Man, and I'm hungry as shit. In all honesty, I'm super hungry. My wife's got myself, my stepdaughter, and her. We are doing a liver cleanse. And this liver cleanse just involves eating fruits, vegetables, no meat, no breads, no thickening anything, no sugar. I don't eat sugar or drink sugar, just honey itself. But oh my lord, I feel like I'm starving. Psychologically, I'm not put together. I'm having a hard time. But what I'm not having a hard time with is putting the pieces together here. We're going to go back to the Ripple court case here. I'm aware it's done, but let's make this make more sense to you, in the sense of the court case, that I'm going to show you evidence that I believe that this court case was a setup to begin with. I've said this many times before, and I'll show you what this court case will be implementing into the future. So I'm going to give you the present defines the past, because the past defines the future. All right, let's dive into this. I'm going to show you how we're going to get new terms through the Senate itself, or through the House, and what these new terms are and what it means for crypto assets, XRP specifically. We are aware that XRP is not a security. It doesn't tell us what it is, doesn't tell us how it works, doesn't tell us where it works, doesn't provide any definitions. It doesn't provide who can use it, who can't use it, where it can be used, where it cannot be used. It doesn't define anything at all, other than the fact that empirically we know it's not a security. What does that mean? So let's go through this from the beginning. We're going to learn a bit about how we test. We're going to learn about how this was all set up and what the court case is building up to, the greater picture in the end, and what the potential end result could be. And I'm going to show you this with evidence, not just me sitting here talking based off of this and based off, no. I'm going to give you evidence into everything. Let's jump into this.
Now, there's a very important threshold question here. In order for the SEC to become involved in the regulation of crypto, remember the SEC's name is the Securities and Exchange Commission. We have to cross the definitional barrier of being able to define the crypto as a security. So that raises the question, what's a security? Now, what's interesting is if you look at the statutes, the organic statutes, the Securities Act of 1933 and the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934, each contains a section that defines what a security is. And the definitions look pretty pedestrian and obvious. They talk about stock, They talk about bonds. They talk about other instruments that most of us would recognize as clearly being securities. But they then throw in a phrase called investment contract. What the heck is an investment contract? Well, the investment contract is what I call a rubber phrase. It's flexible, and it's designed to capture arrangements that act like securities, but don't fit comfortably within any of the other categories of securities. Needless to say, whenever you have a flexible term in a statute, a fact pattern is going to arise that's going to challenge the flexible term, and it's going to call on the courts to apply that flexible term to a specific set of circumstances. The first time that issue arose before the United States Supreme Court was in 1946 with regard to a case called SEC versus Howey. The Securities and Exchange Commission brought a case against the developer of orange groves who wound up selling interests in the orange grove combined with a land management contract. And this is a very important distinction. What you would have is tourists come down to Florida in the 1930s and 1940s. They would stay at this fancy hotel, and right next to the hotel, there would be signs and brochures saying, you love it here in Florida in the summer, why don't you buy a piece of our orange grove here? And the important point is that what the tourists were buying wasn't the orange. It wasn't even the tree. It was the combination of the citrus, the rights to the profits of the citrus, with the management contract. It was the package that the Supreme Court decided satisfied the definition of an investment contract. And because that investment contract was not registered with the SEC, and because the sellers couldn't demonstrate that they qualified for an exemption, the Supreme Court agreed with the Securities Exchange Commission, and it said that the combination of the sale of the orange grove with the management contract was a security. The Supreme Court at no point held, and this is really important, that an orange was a security. It was the package that was the security.
So we know that the orange isn't the security, the package is the security. In an effect, what he's saying is the contents are the security. The building, if we're talking about real estate, the building is a security. If we're talking about cell phones, me purchasing this phone from somebody, this phone is a security. It's just a swap or an exchange from one thing to another thing, right? The tokenization and purchase of that token is the security, and essentially. But the underlying asset behind that swapping of contract or that moving of value is still not a security. The management and the full package together is the investment contract, not the single orange. Okay, so we know Ripple had gone through a court case back in 2020. In 2019, there was a school. I don't remember what school it was, but they had run a dry run, dubbed Digital Currency Wars, a national security crisis simulation. This is in 2019, and my man Gary Bear was in here. Gary Gensler was in this. I'll let you hear the first few minutes of this, and then we're going to keep moving on. I don't want this video to be too long, but you'll understand. You'll understand.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to Digital Currency Wars, a national security crisis simulation, hosted by the Belfer Center's Economic Diplomacy Initiative. The Economic Diplomacy Initiative, led by Nick Burns, Larry Summers, and Aditi Kumar, aims to provide analysis and recommendations to policymakers on challenges at the intersection of economic policy and national security. This simulation was developed by a group of Kennedy School students who created the scenario, delivered policy briefs, and staffed the principals all week. So to start, I want to briefly explain where we are right now. Today, the U.S. is the dominant economic power, in part because of the strength of the U.S. dollar and U.S. financial institutions. No matter how you cut the international monetary system, the dollar is the primary currency. The U.S. leverages this power to do everything from setting trade policy to sanctioning adversaries. We aim to challenge the notion that the US dollar and the US-led monetary system will always retain this lead. With the development of digital currencies, things could change quickly. It's hard to predict the future, but in this simulation, we'll play out one scenario to learn how the rise of digital currencies could reshape geopolitics.
Our scenario takes place 2 years from today, on November 19th, 2021. We have simulated a world in which one big thing has changed. In March 2020, the People's Bank of China launched a sovereign digital currency known as the digital yuan. China is the only major economy with such a currency in circulation, although several nations, including the UK, Canada, and Israel, are actively considering similar projects. The launch of this digital currency is part of China's Digital Silk Road strategy to build its global political and economic influence. From investments in tech giants like Huawei to the creation of smart cities along the Belt and Road, this new digital currency is the natural next step. These policies demonstrate an integrated and, crucially, forward-looking Chinese economic diplomacy strategy, while the US and its allies continue to rely on traditional diplomacy tools.
So the digital yuan is centrally issued by the People's Bank of China and fully backed by fiat reserves. The currency is stored in digital wallets, and payments can be made using a number of applications, including Alipay, WeChat, and mobile banking apps. It's based on a two-tier system where the People's Bank of China issues the currency to select banks and payment providers, and then these institutions redistribute it to individuals and to businesses. The banks serve as nodes in a system, confirming and verifying users and transactions through a mutually understood protocol. All transactions are encrypted, and officials at the People's Bank of China have said they aim to strike a balance between anonymity and national security concerns.
In our scenario, the digital yuan has taken off rapidly and represents 95% of all domestic payments in China. Retail customers have flocked to the currency because of its ease of use and reduced fees. China has also leveraged its Belt and Road Initiative network in order to promote adoption within the business community. BRI contractors in the Caucasus, Central Asia, and Africa can quickly and cheaply convert digital yuan to local currency using Chinese banks. In addition to this, China has been leading a campaign to increase adoption of the digital yuan across Southeast Asia, expanding the government's influence over the region as a whole. Today, a growing number of retail payments in Indonesia, Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos are in digital yuan. In our scenario, we see this as a strategic decision by China to bring more countries into its sphere of economic and political influence. So on the stage tonight, you will see a live simulation of a National Security Council's Principals Committee meeting at the White House. The participants will react to breaking news, debate policy options, and try to bring together a set of recommendations for the president. Simultaneously, you'll be able to watch how the crisis is being viewed in the outside world by allies, the media, and the public on the screen. Please note, in tonight's simulation, participants are speaking only in their personal capacities. And so with that backdrop in mind, let's begin.
Okay, so what do we know about? We know about what the specifics are of the Howey test. We know about the dry run that was done by a university there, and in that dry run, in the introduction, the lady was talking about they will be exploring the digital RMB in the Belt and Road Initiative. So here we have a document pulled up. This document is by Meng Jian. Okay, let's do a bit of information and dig and find a bit about who Meng Jian is, because just because a document's out there doesn't mean it's credible. It doesn't mean it's not credible either. But I want to know a bit about this person to find out who they are. So I'll turn to my trusty to this. So what it says, Meng Jian is associated with the Information Management and Information System Department at Southwestern University of Finance and Economics in Sichuan, China. The research focus, the author's work focuses on digital currency, specifically the digital RMB, and its potential applications in cross-border payments within the context of China's Belt and Road Initiative. Here's their contacts, academic interest. So the paper that we're going to be looking at demonstrates Jiang's interest in fintech, cryptocurrency, cross-border transactions, and the economic implications of China's Belt and Road Initiative's methodology. So the author employs literature, research methods, case studies, and analogical reasoning into their research approach. So they'll give you a background and understanding into the logic of why they had conducted their research the way that they had conducted it. So this paper here holds a lot of merit. And you heard the lady in the mock digital cryptocurrency case, right? In this paper, still in the same paper here. Although the digital currency based on the blockchain technology has not yet been practically put in use, some cross-border payment systems based on blockchain technology, such as Ripple, provide us with experience. So we know that the author here is well versed in the digital R&B and digital technology and fintech. We know that. We know who he is. We know that he's with the the Chinese companies there looking into the RMB. The Ripple network is a transaction system that builds a peer-to-peer payment method through blockchain technology to make payments directly between customers and merchants. The user on both the receiving and paying side access the Ripple network protocol and opens an account through a gateway. Then I can directly conduct the flow of funds, since the entire process is protected by encryption algorithms and is peer-to-peer exchange. Secure storage and transfer of data is archived, it's achieved, and payments and settlement can be made without a third-party central authority. The idea of the digital RMB transaction is not much different from the Ripple system mentioned above. Figure 1 or Figure 3 shows the process idea of the central bank's digital currency cross-border payment. All right, so we know that they've been doing studies with Ripple specifically for this Belt and Road Initiative here. They spoke about it in the dry run there. So let's go back to 2019 now. Where is it? Here, on 2019. So I had posted this several months back now. I was doing some research into Harvard and Gary Gensler, and I came across this video. And in this video, this is 2019, okay? Just after that video we watched the first time there, the individual talking about the Howey test, and just after the dry run here. Okay, so why are they doing a dry run? So let's see. This conversation by Howard legal team was getting hot and divulges that they had known about the Ripple vs. SEC case in 2019. That's possibly a year prior to the actual case, depending on when this came out. And they actually talk about it, because when it comes out on YouTube, it's not like same day. It could be months later, could be years later. I don't know when. So that's possibly a year, could be prior to the actual case. What's even more interesting is the fact that the video ends abruptly while the individual is speaking. And I put the YouTube link right there as well, so you can watch the whole thing yourself. So check this out. Listen to this. You be the judge.
I think kind of more specific, but I think in 2019 or within the probably next 2 years or so, there's going to be a case, going to be a test case of whether or not, like the application of Howey to legitimate non-fraud token sales and token projects that are legitimate use cases that's not in question, and whether or not how these steps apply. And so far, we've had a lot of guidance, a lot of statements, a lot of settlements against small projects that weren't really doing much. But noticeably, there has not been any of the key projects that we talk about a lot, and which everyone knows, none of them have been signed up to any of these regulatory regimes. They're still in this gray area. And one of, I think, kind of more specific, but I think in 2019 or within the probably next 2 years or so, there's going to be a case.
So we know that there will be a case of sorts back in 2019, right? We know about the Howey test and the Orange Grove. We know about the dry run that had taken place with Gary Gensler. We know back in 2019 there was going to be a case of sorts. Bam! SEC charges Ripple and 2 executives with conducting $1.3 billion unregistered securities offerings. What does that mean? Like, what does it actually mean? This came out in 2020 also. The SEC's theory that XRP is an investment contract is wrong, and this is from Ripple, one of Ripple's web pages here, is wrong that the facts that the law and the equities. Let me brighten this up. To prove its case amounts to an unprecedented and ill-conceived expansion of the Howey test and the SEC's enforcement authority against digital assets. So they're saying that the SEC is making up things here. The expansion of it. They've created something that doesn't necessarily exist. The SEC's theories that XRP is an investment contract, so the whole of XRP encompasses the orange grove itself, not the individual orange. So when XRP moves, right, there's still things being moved at this point. I'm sending currencies, Canadian to US, Canadian to US, swap underneath here. So picture like this, swap underneath here. The contract, the investment contract, is between this currency and the two people at the end there. But there's a thing called, or looking to be called, an investment contract asset. So for this to take place, there has to be that asset underneath, right? So that takes us now into the next place of our logic here. In 2021, 2022, where does this say that? There we go. 2021, 2022, known as the HR 4451 Securities Clarity Act, put out by Tom Emmer, states that this bill excludes an investment contract asset as being considered a security, because the asset has to move something, right? Digitally, to get this and to get that, you need something to swap that manually without the intervention of a person or a third party or something, including for disclosure and registration purposes. An investment contract asset, as defined by the bill, is a tangible or intangible asset sold pursuant to an investment contract. So in a sense, that when this investment contract of the Orange Grove, so I'm, in the example there, a tourist that came to Florida and want to invest in this Orange Grove now, for that title or for that package to exist now, for me to own a piece of that Orange Grove, there's an investment contract asset that allows that value to transfer from me to you, from you back to me again, right? Because I have a stake in this now. So while you're doing your thing and making money, I'm making money as well, right? So let's go on. Where does this come from now? This is, here we go, in 2021, a real approach to cryptocurrency regulation. So I scroll down here, right there, the Securities Clarity Act, right? That's what we're looking at here. The Securities Clarity Act. This is a Ripple document. This document here came after the one from Tom Emmer's. So reintroduced on a bipartisan basis by Rep. Tom Emmer and Darren Soto and Ro Khanna earlier this year, seeks to address ambiguities in the SEC's application of the Supreme Court's 1946 Howey case to digital tokens issued as part of an investment contract. Specifically, the bill proposes a new term. And what's that term? Investment contract asset. And makes clear that such assets should be considered separate and distinct from any securities offerings that may have been a part of. So in a sense, when that whole package or Orange Grove was transferred, that security was transferred, the XRP wasn't part of that package of the security moving. The XRP was just a vehicle or the investment contract asset to transfer that security from one hand to the next hand. That's what it does. So that is, digital tokens are not transformed into securities merely because they may have been issued in connection with an investment contract. Rather, the bill clarifies that these assets are in fact and always were commodities. Okay? Commodities. So where does that bring us to? So here we are. So it's not the transaction. It's the transaction, not the token. So issuers cannot offer or sell. This is from Fenwick Legal here. Cannot sell, offer issuers cannot offer or sell securities without registering them with the SEC. So when Ripple had sold the XRP to institutional investors at that point, they were acting as a broker-dealer. They did not have licenses or authorization to sell these securities or this issuance, this thing, this protocol, this XRP to anybody. They were acting as a dealer. They were acting as an exchange without exchanging anything. They were giving it out. They were selling it to individuals in exchange for money. So they were acting as the broker-dealer and selling securities without securities licenses. So XRP is the native currency of the XRP ledger, a blockchain on the Ripple with Ripple Labs builds enterprise cryptocurrency solutions. In December 22, 2020, the SEC sued Ripple and two of its executives in the U.S. District Court of the Southern District of New York. So where do I want to get to? So the outcome from the court case, in determining if the digital asset XRP is being offered or sold as an investment contract, the Ripple court applied the Howey test to each type of distribution alleged. So Ripple sales of XRP to fundraise from sophisticated counterparties pursuant to contracts were found to be unregistered securities transaction, because Ripple was raising money by selling XRP directly from their own Ripple wallet or wherever they kept their XRP as a company who was supposed to be custodying XRP because XRP was gifted to them. They were selling it as an unregistered security. So Ripple and its executives' sales of XRP on public exchanges in blind bid-ask transactions. So Ripple puts the, or XRP ends up on the exchanges, and then you and me of the world or whoever else can buy it. That's what a blind bid-ask is. There's not direct from me to you or you to me. It's just on an exchange. Any random can buy it. Those were not securities transactions. Distribution of XRP to employees and grantees who did not pay Ripple for the XRP were not securities offerings or sales either. Okay, so here's the takeaways. Ripple provides critical takeaways for those involved in the offering or sales of digital assets. Ripple undermines the SEC's position that certain digital assets are crypto asset securities. The question was not, as the SEC suggested, whether XRP is a security, but rather whether a particular transaction involving XRP constituted an offering or sale of an investment contract. That gives crypto projects much more flexibility in surviving enforcement challenges. So remember, because you and I have a contract, I have a contract to buy your house, and if XRP is the mechanism to transfer the value of your house into my wallet and my money to your wallet, XRP is not part of that contract. The house is the contract, the money is the mechanism to exchange at that point between you and I. XRP is just facilitating that movement of value. XRP is not part of that contract. So that's where the notion comes in for this new term to be implemented by Ripple. Has stated that they want to implement this. This is the Congress, that they want to implement investment contract asset. There is a bill on that as we've gone through. It's still sitting there. It's still just introduced 2 years later. So this is something I'm going to be watching diligently to see where this leads, because I feel like that Ripple case was set up to begin with. In 2019, we knew that Harvard was talking about this, or that there would be something in 2019, 2020, and then we have that dry run in 2019 as well. And then we have the Ripple case in 2020. Everything was set up already. They knew about it. All set up. And then during the case in 2020, Ripple had come out with this policy framework stating that there should be a new term used, because you can operate in gray terms, right, in the gray area, and say how this thing can look then, because if it's not part of this contract, this package, where does it fit into this package then? How does it fit in? Is it part of the package or is it something else? So they're breaking it up into two different things: investment contract and investment contract asset. This is the vehicle now, right? The intangible and intangible. XRP is tangible and or intangible depending on what the mechanism is. That is how that works. Is that everything I want to show you? I believe so. I believe so. I do hope you found value in this one. I will catch you on the next one.
We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.